Humanity first meant a lot of things depending on who you asked. To the Admiralty, it meant ironclad borders and bigger guns. To the diplomats, it meant treaties written in bloodless ink and endless compromise. To me, Lieutenant Marcus Hale, search and rescue pilot, 3rd Expeditionary Fleet, it meant one simple rule. If someone is in trouble and I can help them, I do. Even if that someone turns out to be the daughter of a vampire queen. Beginning, the child in the wreckage. The distress signal came from the Noctira expanse, a region of space so politically radioactive that most captains wouldn't even glance at it. Nocturans were an ancient species, tall, pale, red-eyed humanoids who metabolized iron-rich blood analogs and lived for centuries. Humanity called them vampires. They called themselves the Sanguinari. We weren't at war with them. We weren't at peace either. So when Fleet Command told me to ignore the signal, I almost did. Almost. The transmission was weak, repeating, and clearly automated. Life pod beacon. Civilian class. The coordinates placed it near the debris field of a destroyed courier ship. Something about that didn't sit right with me. Sir, orders are to bypass. My co-pilot, Ensign Ree, reminded me. I know, I said, fingers already moving across the console. But if that pod belongs to a kid, I'm not leaving them to suffocate because politics got messy. Ree sighed. HFY is going to get us killed one day. Probably, I replied, engaging the thrusters. But not today. The wreckage was still warm when we arrived. Shattered hull plating, scorched engine fragments, and the unmistakable signature of pirate plasma cannons. Scavengers had hit the courier fast and hard. We found the pod tumbling slowly, its hull cracked but intact. Inside was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 by human standards. Pale skin like moonlight, silver-white hair drifting in zero-G, crimson eyes wide with terror. She clutched a small crystal pendant and stared at me through the viewport. She wasn't crying. She was too scared for that. Life sign stable, Ree said softly. Species confirmed. Sanguinari. I swallowed. Open the pod. The moment we brought her aboard, the ship's atmosphere processor spiked. Nocturans preferred colder, denser air. She shivered as gravity returned, her tiny boots touching the deck. I knelt slowly, removing my helmet. It's okay, I said gently. You're safe now. She stared at my exposed face, pupils dilating. Then, in perfect galactic common, she whispered, Are you going to eat me? That one hurt. No, I said quickly. I promise. I don't eat kids. Or anyone. She studied me for a long moment, then took a hesitant step forward and wrapped her arms around my leg. My name is Lyrian, she said. Mama said humans are loud but kind. My blood ran cold. There was only one sanguinary female whose child disappearing would trigger a galactic incident. Queen Nisara Valcor, sovereign of the Crimson Court. The Vampire Queen. Middle blood and diplomacy. We didn't make it far before the interceptors arrived. 3 sleek Nocturan warcraft dropped out of folded space, their hulls shimmering like liquid obsidian. Weapons locked onto us in less than a second. Human vessel. A voice echoed through the comms, ancient and powerful. Power down your engines. Ree glanced at me. Sir. I raised my hand slowly. Comply. They tracted us aboard a massive dread palace. Half battleship, half Gothic cathedral in space. Crimson banners floated in the vacuum halls, illuminated by bioluminescent runes. The doors opened and she stood waiting. Queen Nisara was taller than any human I'd ever met, her presence pressing down like gravity. Her skin was porcelain pale, her long black hair flowing freely, her eyes glowing with restrained fury. And when Lyrian saw her, she squealed, "Mama!" The queen dropped all pretense of regal composure and crossed the hall in a blink, kneeling to scoop her daughter into her arms. She held her tightly, eyes closed, breathing shakily. I watched silently, heart pounding. After a long moment, Nisara looked up at me. "You," she said, voice like velvet over steel. "Explain why my child was found aboard your ship." I told her everything. The distress signal, the wreckage, my decision to disobey orders. I expected rage. Instead, I saw something far more dangerous. Relief. "You defied your superiors," she said quietly. "For her." "Yes," I replied. "I would have done it for any child." Her eyes narrowed. "Even an enemy." I met her gaze. "Especially then." The hall was silent. Finally, Nisara rose. "The pirates who attacked the courier have already been dealt with. Their blood paid for my fear." I winced internally. "Human Marcus Hale," she continued, "you have committed a grave diplomatic violation." He nodded. "I know. And yet," she said, stepping closer, "you have also saved the single most precious being in my existence." She studied my face with unnerving intensity. "In my culture," she said, "such a debt cannot go unpaid." I didn't like where this was going. The war that almost was. News traveled fast. Within days, the galaxy buzzed with rumors. A human officer had rescued the Vampire Queen's daughter. Some called me a hero. Others called me an idiot who'd almost sparked a war. Fleet Command dragged me into hearings. Politicians argued. Admirals shouted. Then the Crimson Court made its move. Instead of retaliation, the Sanguinari opened their borders to human relief ships for the first time in history. Trade routes long sealed became accessible. Pirate activity in Nocturne space dropped to zero. Apparently fear was a very effective deterrent. All because of one little girl. I was summoned back to the Crimson Dread Palace a month later. This time, no weapons were aimed at me. Lyrian ran to me the moment I stepped inside. "Marcus," she chirped, hugging me fiercely. "Mama says you're brave and stubborn." "Those aren't mutually exclusive," I muttered, patting her head. Nisara watched us from her throne, expression unreadable. "Lieutenant Hale," she said. "Walk with me." We moved through a private garden. Real plants, genetically preserved from Nocturne homeworlds lost to time. Bioluminescent flowers cast soft red light across her pale features. "My people respect strength," she said. "But we revere compassion. You have shown both." "I just did what felt right," I replied. She stopped walking. "I have lived 612 years, Nisara said. In that time I have known conquerors, tyrants, lovers, and monsters. Very few would risk everything for a child not their own." I felt the weight of her gaze again. "You changed the course of history," she continued. "And you did it without firing a weapon." I thought grimly. Then she said the words that shattered my expectations entirely. "In accordance with Crimson law, I offer you my hand in union." I stared. "You're proposing?" "Yes. To prevent a war." "No," she said firmly. "To seal a bond of trust. To bind our species not by fear, but by family." I laughed nervously. "Queen Nisara, I'm honored, but I'm just a pilot." She stepped closer, eyes softening. "And I am tired of ruling alone. Ending humanity, blood, and the future." The galaxy lost its collective mind. A human marrying the Vampire Queen was unprecedented. Commentators screamed about infiltration, domination, betrayal. Others saw hope. I saw Lyrian sitting between us at the ceremony, swinging her feet and smiling. The union didn't make me a king. It didn't give humanity control over the sanguinari. What it did was far more dangerous. Made us allies. Shared patrols followed. Scientific exchanges. Cultural bridges built not by treaties, but by trust. Humans helped the sanguinari adapt their biology to synthetic blood alternatives, ending centuries of moral conflict. In return, Nocturne biotech extended human lifespans and cured diseases once thought incurable. And piracy, practically extinct in our sector. As for me, I went from search and rescue pilot to something stranger. A symbol. Proof that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its fleets or firepower. It was its refusal to look at a frightened child and see an enemy. Sometimes when Lyrian falls asleep during hyperspace travel, Nisara rests her head on my shoulder and whispers, "You changed everything." I always shake my head. "No," I say. "I just answered a distress call." Why? Because sometimes, saving one life is how you save the galaxy. Years later, historians would argue over when the galaxy truly changed. Some would say it was the signing of the Crimson Terran Accord. Others would point to the first mixed human, sanguinari colony, or the moment piracy collapsed under the silent promise of Nocturne retaliation. They would all be wrong. Change didn't begin with politics or power. It began with a human kneeling in a wrecked corridor, telling a frightened little girl that she was safe. I stood now on the balcony of the Crimson Spire, watching twin stars rise over a peaceful system once known only for war. Below, humans and sanguinari walk side by side. Laughing, arguing, living. Things no one would have believed possible a decade ago. Lyrian leaned against the railing beside me, taller now. Her silver hair braided in the human style she favored. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "Mama says the galaxy still fears us." I smiled faintly. The galaxy fears a lot of things. She looked up at me with those same red eyes that once stared at me through a cracked pod viewport. "But they don't fear you," she said. "They fear losing what you taught them." Nisara joined us then, her presence still commanding, but softer now, grounded. She took my hand without ceremony, as natural as breathing. "Humanity taught the stars something dangerous," she said quietly. "What's that?" "Yes. That mercy is stronger than domination," she replied. "And that compassion can rewrite destiny faster than conquest ever could." I thought back to that moment, the decision to break orders, to answer a call no one else would. I hadn't known the consequences then. I only knew I couldn't leave a child alone in the dark. As the stars climbed higher, I understood something simple and terrifyingly powerful. Humanity didn't need to rule the galaxy. It only needed to care enough to save it. And sometimes, saving the future begins with rescuing one small life. Why?